Well, a very good morning, everyone. My name is Sheba Diana Adams, and I am going to be your host for today. I extend my warm welcome to all the esteemed architects, interior designers, industry professionals, and enthusiasts who have gathered here for the most anticipated event of the year, the Architecture and Interior Design Excellence Awards and Conference 2023. Can we hear a big round of applause, everybody? Come on. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to introduce to you our next speaker for the day, architect Parekh. Mr. Parekh has over 36 years of experience in the architecture and construction industry, both in India and the US. He has worked in Washington, D.C. for about 18 years on a portfolio of prestigious projects. His professional experience is diverse: architecture, interior design, real estate development, valuation, technical due diligence, program management, and construction administration. Mr. Parekh has also had invaluable exposure in contract negotiations, master planning, and project feasibility studies. He has designed a notable portfolio of institutional, industrial, residential, medical, and corporate projects. He is no stranger to the varieties of corporate culture and has designed projects for global conglomerates as well as emerging private clientele. His Western as well as Asian experience allows him to apply his design skills within the global context, thus providing his clients the best of both worlds. The immense body of his projects display his creativity in designing cost-effective and space-flexible solutions, which allow the institutions to seamlessly expand as their functional needs change. Due to his spacious focus on educational campuses, his innovative master planning and campus designs have won him numerous laurels. Furthermore, he continues to be invited by leading colleges and professional organizations to speak on a plethora of topics. He is also the chief mentor at the Foundation for Architectural Career Enhancement, where he is instrumental in organizing educational seminars and workshops for the design fraternity. Well, ladies and gentlemen, join me with a big round of applause to welcome Mr. Parekh on stage.
Hi, good morning. Truly intimidating after listening to Pani and Sir being here. Very articulate, Pani. Wonderful experience, wonderful project. Good morning. Sundar Pichai recently said that AI will soon have the ability to design a website in just 30 seconds. So as technology unfolds in the next few years, so what will this mean to all of us? Oh my God, this is too serious. Let's talk about something fun. Okay. Let's focus on our very own AI and what it means to us. On a lighter note, a minister is responsible for finding an architect to build a tower. Okay? So he brings in 3 architects. He brings in a Chinese architect, an American architect, and an Indian architect. So the minister goes to the Chinese architect and says, what will your charges be? And he says, 3 million. So then he goes to the American architect and he says, how much will you charge? And the American architect says, 6 million. Finally, the minister goes to the Indian architect and says, how much will you charge? And he says, 9 million. So the minister looks at the Indian architect and says, 9 million? Why? He says, well, I gave you 3 million, I keep 3 million, and we give 3 million to the Chinese architect to build the tower. Okay? So I'm certainly not implying that that's the strategy we should be using. So my talk is going to be a little bit of a departure from what Pani has been talking about. Believe it or not, 19.8% of male architects here hesitate to negotiate fees with the client. Even worse, 25.2% of women architects hesitate to negotiate fees with their clients. You know, designing a project is similar to getting married. We first have the love at first sight stage, right? We have the prenuptial contract stage, the honeymoon, reality sinks in, strange bedfellows, and then finally, investing in the relationship. Today, I'm going to speak about just the first two stages of the marriage. You know, my beautiful wife is sitting here in the audience, so I think it would be prudent to skip the other stages of the marriage at this point in time. Let's talk about love at first sight. You know, a couple of years ago, I pitched for a hospital in Nepal. And I did my KYC on the client pretty good, okay? I understood the design brief, the budget, the timelines. I even acted like a bank. I actually didn't forget to do the KYC on the client to make sure that that was a legitimate client, okay? And I thought I was going to make the right pitch. So going back to this hospital example for a minute. So there was this hospital in Nepal that I was pitching for. And the client was there for a very, very short time, so I had to be really quick and dirty about this pitch. And I started making the pitch. I spoke about my healthcare experience, healthcare planning, blah, 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 blah. And then I made my first mistake. I invited the MEP engineer to come and talk on stage. And it was so boring, he started talking about piping routes. And I lost the project. So, the moral of the story is rehearse the pitch with your team before going to the client. Critical don'ts. Don't oversell and make false promises. And don't be overzealous with your fees. Let's talk about the prenuptial contract for a minute. You know, I get this asked a lot. What's important? Why sign a contract, right? So documentation is critical for all of us. To define responsibilities, understand responsibilities. What's our scope of work? How much and when? When do we get paid? And of course, we don't want convenient amnesia to be setting in either at the client level or at our level. And then finally, talking about the budget. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is it's important to define what the legal entity of your client is, whether it's a private limited company or it's an LLP, a corporation, a multinational, whatever. And the reason I'm saying that is because from true life experiences, for example, I was doing a villa project for a husband and wife, and true life, okay? Halfway through the project, the husband and wife got separated. So now what do I do? So I mean, these are true life experiences that I'm talking about. For example, location of a project in terms of where it is in relationship to your office. So you may be located in Bangalore, but the project may be in Manali, for example. So how are you going to handle site visits, quality checks, all of that? Scope of services, I was talking about that. It's important as to why do we sign a contract to define the scope of services. Believe it or not, most disagreements are not about money, but what the client perceives our scope of work to be. Okay? It's also important to define where architecture ends or begins and ends, and where interior design starts. Okay. For example, I was doing a renovation project, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because of scope of services. I was doing a renovation project, and I just assumed that, okay, here's the building, and this is what I've got to renovate. But I didn't realize one thing, that I did not ask for the existing building documents or the drawings. Now, what I didn't realize and how important that was, in a renovation project, there were 11 buildings on the site, and there is no existing documentation. So who's responsible for actually documenting all of that, the work that needs to be renovated? So it's important that you understand the scope of the work before you submit a fee. Let's talk about top five negotiation strategies that all of us should be using. Number one of the things that I have found very, very useful in my practice is, before you actually submit a contract, submit an MOU. And what's the difference? In an MOU, you can mention your fee, and it can be just a one-page document which very simply puts together what is the project, what is the general scope, and that's it. But you can specify your fee in percentage terms, lump sum terms, square foot terms, whatever it is, whatever you choose to do. But as an example, don't put in your stage payments. Put in your fee, but don't put in your stage payments. It gives you time to understand the client's mindset. Okay? It leaves you wriggle room later for negotiating. Okay? After the basic terms of the contract or your proposal is agreed to, then submit your detailed contract. And you will find that most clients will accept the other terms as long as your basic fee structure has remained the same. Yeah. 2, establish your mode of fees. For example, lump sum fees. For example, you need to be careful that the scope and the design is defined very clearly from day one. Okay? If it's a per square foot fee, define the size. So for example, you want to make sure it includes the basements, the terraces, the open balconies, the sky bridges, sky walks, you name it, lofts, you include everything as part of your square foot thing, because that is what is going to define how you're going to get paid. What about site development? For example, on a sloping site, you will find that architecture is one part, but site development involves a lot of work. Retaining walls, gabion walls, roads, compound walls, it could be all kinds of things. So you want to be careful about how you quote your fee, even if it's on a per square foot basis. Hourly is good for extra services. But I've found over the years that clients hesitate to pay an hourly fee in India. If it's a percentage fee, again, please define what that means. For example, we've had clients where the client's brother owns an RMC plant, and he owns a tile and a sanitary shop, fixture shop. So what happens? He's going to get that material for free or virtually free. So if it's a percentage fee, you better be careful that you put in a clause saying that client provided materials will be assumed on market prices if you're doing a percentage fee. Okay? I hate round numbers. I always quote my fees on an odd number basis. And why do I do that? 2 reasons. One, when I quote something like 4.73 or something really crazy like that, it actually, in the client's mind, looks like, man, this guy's really thought it through. He's come up with 4.73. Must be a mathematical reason for doing this. Okay? Actually, it's not. Right? It's just a way of negotiating. It also gives me the opportunity to come down or reduce my fee in smaller increments. So if you're at 4%, the client will say, "Arey, 3.5 mein kar do na." But if I'm at 4.73, I'm going to say, okay, well, I can do 4.69. That's. So it's a strategy that one has to come up with to be able to negotiate a better fee for ourselves. Number 3, stage payments. And, the more the merrier. It's like Robin Hood, more merrier. It reduces our risk and our exposure. Because the more stage payments you have, we tend to, as architects, tend to want to simplify things. Saying, okay, 10% on concept and 10% on working, design development, or 10% on working drawings. Don't do that. Don't do that. Break it up into more stages, because you never know if and when the project is going to get stopped or delayed or whatever it is, right? So you want to break up and make sure you break it up into enough parts. So for example, you want to link your payments to deliverables. Now, what do I mean by deliverables? Concept design and design development and working drawing is not a deliverable. A deliverable can be, for example, on submission of building permission drawings, not on approval, because approvals take long. On submission of the building drawings is when you should take some money off the table. And then again you take money on getting approvals. And then again on start of work. You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to break up the project stages or the stage payments into more stages so that we have less risk at the end of the day. So for example, what I will also do is on submission of draft tender drawings, or then again get paid on approval of draft tender drawings. The other reason to do that is when you have said, I'm getting paid on submission of draft concept design, for example, right? And then I'm getting paid again on approval of concept design. What has it done? One is you got paid twice, right? You've broken up your payments. But more importantly, when you've gotten paid that second time on approval of concept design, you have created a history that you actually approved the concept design and therefore I got paid, and so now you cannot say the concept design approved nahi tha. See what I'm saying? So it makes a difference in terms of how you draft the contract. One of the things that a lot of people do is link payments to working drawings. Now in India, unfortunately or fortunately, working drawings are never given at one single time. We're always giving it in parts. So why would I link fees to working drawings? I can't, because it's a continual process through the project. So I never want to link your stage payments to working drawings. You want to link it to more tangible things like I've submitted a setting out plan. I get paid this much. I've submitted a centerline plan. I get paid this much. I've submitted on footing and foundations. I get paid so much. So you want to link it to something which is tangible and linkable. Payments during construction, classic problem. Why would we want to get paid monthly? Break it up into fortnightly. Less risk, again, for us. If you link it to progress, that's a wild card. We're doing a villa project right now where it's just 2 slabs. It's a large villa. It's about a 14,000 square foot villa. But it's taken 2 years for us to get to 2 slabs. So, why would I wait for 2 years to get paid on the project? Right? So you want to be a little bit careful of that. Now, if you're offering master planning, as one of the services that you are offering, be careful. Be specific on what is included in future buildings in your master plan. So is it going to be single line diagrams or is it just going to be block plans? So you want to be a little bit more specific about what your scope of work entails as far as master planning is concerned. Typical problem, right? Good, fast, and cheap. You want all three? Doesn't exist. Number 4, ownership and copyright. Be careful on this. Remember, we own the design and the drawings, and you want to put that into your contract. A lot of clients nowadays saying, "Aapka AutoCAD drawing humko de do na." Sorry, not happening. Okay. How many of us have had clients who make changes? There you go. So you want to make sure that you have a clause to say, well, I'm going to charge X amount for changes. Example, you may have a change in design, budget, size, use, all kinds of things. We've actually had 2 situations, believe it or not, where we finished the entire design for a commercial project, and right at the point where we were going to sort of start construction, the builder comes to us and says, "Oops, we bought the property next door. So now we need to redesign the complete project." Okay, so you want to be careful about those things. I've also had, believe it or not, and I am not joking with you, I've had a situation where the client and the builder actually took me to the land where the client had bought the property. It was a plotted layout, so to speak. And he says, "Haan, ye plot client ka hai." Now this was a very hilly terrain, a lot of trees, sloping site, blah, blah, blah. And we say, "Okay, great, that's the land." So we go back, the builder sends us an AutoCAD drawing of that property. We designed the entire project. This was a healing center. 6 months later, we found out he showed us the wrong property. True life. And he said, "Oops, thoda mistake ho gaya. Ye property nahi hai, wo property hai." So what do? You start from ground zero. So you want to make sure about stuff like that. You also have, especially in this day and time, we've had enactment of new DCR, right? Development Control Rule coming in. So for example, the current podium open space debate is going on. How is that going to impact all of our designs? So you want to make sure about that. Offer value-add services, whether it's value engineering, cost estimation, 3D visualization, technical feasibility studies, whatever it is. And reimbursables. You want to make sure that you pick up things like printing and plotting. If you're doing a public project like how Pawnee is doing, right? You're going to have 12 tenders. Now, how many times are you going to keep printing drawings for them and free of charge? So you want to make sure about things like this. With GST, try and invoice on the 3rd and the 15th of the month. The reason I'm saying this is when you invoice on the 3rd and the 15th of the month, if you're invoicing on the 3rd, you have hypothetically 27 days for the client to pay you. Otherwise, what ends up happening, if he doesn't pay you, you are out of pocket when you file your GST returns for the next month or the next quarter. So you want to be careful. You want to give the client enough time so that he or she pays you, so that you are not out of pocket on this thing. If you are going for overseas travels, a lot of us go to Vietnam and China and Italy to buy furniture, blah, blah, blah. Please make sure you take the money beforehand for that trip. Okay? You don't want to go there and then find out he forgot to pay you. Or he realized that, oh, ye to include tha. Number 5, body language and speech during a negotiation. appearance and grooming. I know this sounds very, very obvious, but it's amazing how many times I have observed in a negotiation how people behave and talk impacts the negotiation and what you're going to get out of it. Facial expressions, eye contact, posture and gestures, voice and vocal quality. For example, in a negotiation, you're sitting across table. How does that come across? Right? How does that come across? In a negotiation, try and change your attitude or your persona. Instead of sitting across the table, come and sit with him. It makes a massive difference in terms of how your negotiation will turn out. Remember, only 7% of what you say actually gets through. 38% is the tone of your voice, and 55% is actually your body language. 6 common mistakes that pretty much all of us have made, including myself. Not reading the client's mindset. We go in with a very confrontational attitude. Remember, a negotiation is supposed to be a win-win situation. It's not win-lose situation. We sometimes tend to talk too much because we're either nervous or we are very keen on getting our our opinion out there. Shut up. Believe me, you learn a lot more if you keep quiet. Don't number jump. That goes back to my first thing, 4.73%, right? Don't number jump. You have the opportunity to take baby steps to come down if you need to. Failing to reinforce your value and what you bring to the table. For example, if you were doing a hospital, or let's say if you're doing a school, right? There, you need to say that, well, don't compare me with the other architects who maybe have limited medical experience or educational experience. Please compare an apple with an apple, not an apple with an orange. Right? So you want to reinforce the value that you bring to the table, whether it's cost savings, time savings, whatever it is that you bring to the table. So you want to reinforce your value. And of course, saying yes too quickly. Remember, negotiation is a win-win situation. Life never gives you what you deserve. You only get what you can negotiate. Thank you.